The one thing I do know is how this machine works. I've somehow mastered it in ways that I didn't even think were possible. And one thing I can tell you is that the people that run these machines, the Instagrams, the TikToks, the YouTubes, etc., they've made a grievous mistake in that they've given up their power to the algorithm. They've given up their power over the machine to the machine. And the machine, while quite racist in design, is easier to manipulate than your average white supremacist structure. And one thing the machine responds to is people moving in one direction. And so if we have a surge of people presenting black radical ideas in politics, even to half a dozen views a pop, we're actually going to be manipulating and changing culture as we're talking about it, because we're going to be producing a stronger wave and a stronger force that then touches all these other folks that don't even know that their algorithm even exists. They just think they opened up the app and somebody talking about Hubert Harrison pops up. So everybody in here don't have to make it your career, but you should be engaging with content that is radical, producing content that is radical, sharing content that is radical, so that we increase the gravitational pull of that space. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all the responses, and something that each one of your responses makes me even more convicted, or makes me think of, is this understanding that for diasporic peoples, that out of the rooms of stagnancy and difficulty and trauma and turmoil has always come creative ingenuity. And so I think that you all are testaments to that, and living proof of that. And it kind of ties into the following question that I sort of want to deposit to all of you. And we talk about representation, just representation as this concept, but in my eyes, representation without liberation is just inclusion in a burning building. And so, in regards to the media in particular, what does that look like for you in regards to distinguishing art and media that serves to continue that legacy of creative ingenuity versus art and media that sort of just promulgates mainstream dispositions and mainstream ideologies?
When I'm listening to your question about media, and some of the first things that come to mind, of course, are like the major media outlets and how media has been consolidated in this country, and frankly, in many places across the globe, and how it's a money. It's about money. We live in a capitalist society. And maybe on the next panel, we talk about a little bit more about whether or not capitalism is crumbling, how we should be in relationship to it or not. All of those things. Is the empire actually crumbling? When I think about what they call media, the third estate here, is that right? Or fifth, fourth? Look, Kamal, I don't know, fourth? Okay. One of them estates. I think as people, if folks in here, is everybody here about like collective liberation, revolution, something, right? About freeing our folks, all that good stuff, right? It's important for us to be just like conscious first and aware of what's going on. And to also think about our own individual relationship, our family's relationship, the various communities we belong to, and our respective relationships to media, be it on the internet, the TV, print media, if you still have access to it, if it's still happening for you. And if one has, I think, a grounded assessment, you might just decide to give up, frankly. You might just decide to give up. But I think about all of the insurgent spaces of media, the community radio stations, like WRFG here in Atlanta, right? Who listens to what's last time you listened to WRFG here in Atlanta? We have to be just as conscious to like what media we consume, or the media that we create. And I do agree with you that folks should be engaged in creating content, but it's beyond just content. Like, what is the intention? What is the purpose of it? Like, really we got to be intentional about what we are putting out there. I'm not saying you need to have a whole strategic plan. or you gotta read 12 books, or all the things. But if you have an OG in your life, or you have a librarian in your life, a teacher in your life, have you listened to them? Have you sat down and talked about the idea first before you put it on the internet? Because a lot of that is actually a part of the issue, is we have a lot of uninformed and misinformed opinions and ideas on the internet. You don't need a PhD to have an informed perspective on history, but you do need to study. You do need to study. Your neighborhood historian has studied. They may not have ever stepped foot in an academic classroom, but they took the time to study. They took the time to get curious. You can start with an elder in your own family. Is there an older person in the organization that you organize in? Have you sat down and got their story? It don't have to be fancy, but it should be rigorous. Our people deserve our rigor. So we're going to go about the business